Hello, dear listeners. Welcome to the ECM podcast. I'm Caroline Fontanier, and I'm very happy to host this series that will take you behind the scenes of new music on ECM Records. In this new episode, I'm meeting with Anders Jormin to talk about his new duo release on ECM, Memento, with pianist Marilyn Crispell. We talked about the art of listening, nature and silence, and so much more. Talk to me about your relationship with Marilyn. When this idea of recording duo came up, and because you started working together over 20 years ago, and you recorded together for the first time for In Winds and Light, or that was you played before together?
For ECM, definitely In Winds in Light was the first recording we did together. But we did something for a smaller Swedish label, a more free improvised album with a drummer called Raymond Strid, a really good Swedish free drummer. And I can't remember what came first. Anyway, in that period, Marilyn was several times during a couple of years in Sweden, and we collaborated in different ways. And then doing this duo album has been quite a long dream and vision. And as I remember it, we had planned to do it just before the corona, the pandemic. Then it took another 5-6 years before it came up for discussion once again. And then we finally did it in July last year, I think, in Lugano.
In Lugano, we're going to talk about your time in studio, but it's also nice when it takes time to brew and mature an idea, because then you have time to nurture the relationship and also decide for the tracks together. Was it an obvious choice, the songs that you chose? Was it together, or you both brought something? Because there's also compositions that you wrote together, right?
Yeah, there is. And actually, we did prepare over the internet, communicating in mails, mainly sharing material, ideas, sending to each other. And when we came to the studio in Lugano, we had a bunch of compositions that I wrote, some of the things that Marilyn wrote, but we ended up using very few of them. So quite much of the material on Memento album is improvised there in the spur of the moment. And that's how the recording developed. And we were open for that too. But you can also say, well, if we will do a follow-up album, we already have lots of compositions that is not on this album.
Yeah. There's something special about the duo too.
It is. That I has not played for a long time. We have since way back a good connection. So it felt like we could just start playing, starting where we ended 15 or 20 years ago.
That's
Very
beautiful.
easily.
I mean, we've heard you, at least on ECM, we've heard you with a lot of work on trio with Bobo Stenson, and also, with Charles Lloyd. I mean, we're going to talk about your relationship with ECM because you've recorded with so many artists. But am I wrong, or is it your first duo recording on ECM?
You are probably right. I think it is my first duo recording, yes.
And there's something where in a place like Lugano, and that we don't want to talk about, but the duo, there's something with a lot of responsibility in the back and forth, and there's no escape. It's just you and the person and the instruments. And was it a fun exercise for you, or was it challenging, or both?
Over the years, I have played quite much duo. So the thing is not news to me, even though it was the first for ECM. And in a way, a duo, it's like a musical dialogue. It's like you and me talking together now. It's in a way the most, maybe not simple, but one of the more natural and familiar ways of communicating musically. Trio, you can sense, let's say that we are three people in a room talking, but when there is four, something happens. So I would say that the duo and the trio opens out up for a very delicate, complex, and embracing way of communicating. When you reach the number of four or more, something happens.
Yeah, it's different. I mean, we're not going to name any names, but do you have or have you had duo experiences where it was just not working, where there was just like no chemistry between you and someone
Yeah.
else?
Most probably, yes. I cannot really recall any example or any musician, but of course, communicating with another person, it can be everything from complex to extremely simple, and it can even change from time to time, depending maybe on what you're trying to say or what you think the other person is trying to say. The most important thing is the art of listening.
And Marilyn is as good as listening as you, because that's also a bass player thing. Sometimes when it's more leading instrument like the piano or the sax, there are also situations where a musician that is usually in the position of leader has more trouble listening or giving space for the other musicians.
It can be. In this case, in this duo recording, I felt when we did it that we did communicate very well.
Mm,
Communicating in a way where you really listen to each other without restraining your own voice, without holding back. So, in that way, I think this recording felt very good.
ECM presents this album called Memento, and you're going to talk to me about if you chose this title because of the Marilyn composition or something else. But it's presented as an album about memory and loss. Was it the result of a conversation that you had with Marilyn about that topic?
Yes, we had pretty much discussions, especially during the recording, what we was trying to achieve, and of course the situation in the world. You know, it was the war in Gaza was at its peak just when we recorded it. So this was a topic we discussed very much. The suffering, especially we pinpointed the children in
The
war,
children, yeah.
and that loss that the world has when children are killed or lose their parents because of stupidities of war. That was one of the themes we were thinking, and also loss of good friends who passed away or were about to pass away. So they were both personal and in general, the world is in a tough situation, as we know when we watch the news today.
Of
So that
course.
that was like an inner core for both of us while improvising together.
You're mentioning the word of, sorry if I'm butchering the word, but Vemut. I don't know how you do.
Vemod, the
Vemut.
word, yes, vemod. That
Vemut.
word doesn't
Um,
exist in any other language, but it means looking back to things that has happened with both a smile and sadness, like something you have lost, but your memory of it is a bright and light one. That combination of sadness and joy we call in my language vemod.
It's
It,
a very important concept because grief, you're talking about loss, you're talking about memories of people that we lost
yeah.
or that the world has lost. And grief can be as sad as joyful sometimes. And it's not always easy to choose the joyful part of things, but because there is a word that just characterizes those both things at the same time, it also allows the music to be an option. There's something I feel in the generosity of this album that when you're talking about the world the way it is, I'm always curious to understand if an artist consider that they should be a reflection of the world and calling out what's going on, or being a safe space and a place where we can breathe and just forget about what's going on. But it actually can be both, and that's what's going on with this music too, right?
Yeah, that's you put it beautifully. And I think what this music contains, if it is a specific message from me to you. Most important is how you, as a listener, embrace and feels about the music. As an artist, it's impossible to, at least for me, impossible not to have a relation to what happens around me, not
Mhm.
to have a relation to the world. How my art is affected by what surrounds me, I can maybe not put into words, and maybe it's not impossible, but to be part of the world is important for any human being. And then with the music we play, it's in what way it opens your heart that is interesting. So maybe, hopefully, you come closer to your own understanding of the world.
Has it
Yes.
always been the bass for you?
Yes. Well, I started as a pianist. I still use the piano for
You compose on piano?
composing tool. I
Mm.
compose on the piano quite often, quite much. I can compose at the desk, I can compose with my bass, but the piano is a very good tool. And so, but I started playing bass already, well, what was I? Let's say 13 or 14 years old. In the music school in my small Swedish city where I grew up. And since then, bass has been my instrument. My father was a jazz pianist. He needed a bass player at home. It became me. So I sometimes say that, well, I didn't actually choose the bass. I was so young that it was given to me, and my fascination and love for music made me play it. Had I chosen at the age of 20, I think I would have chosen the cello or the trumpet. And if I dared, I would have been a vocalist. But I don't dare.
You never sing?
I sing at home. And
You sing in your shower, that's it.
a few times I have actually been singing as an artist, but I don't think I have the skill or gift for singing. But I sometimes say that I try to sing on my bass. When people say, give me compliments for my bass playing, I say, yeah, well, I'm trying to sing.
There's such a strong relationship between bass and ECM also. There are more bass solo albums than on any other label in the world. Manfred Eicher plays the bass.
Yes. And
Um,
that's the reason, I think. He gladly put out solo bass albums.
do you feel like he listens to the bass differently than any other producer?
I think Manfred in general listens more careful to all instruments than many other producers.
Yeah, than anyone in the world, really.
Maybe, yeah. And let's say I think many producers could forget of focusing on the bass.
Mhm.
Manfred does not forget.
Yeah.
So Manfred, probably with his great knowledge of bass playing from his own background, he knows the importance of bass, and he hears it not as something behind music, but as a part of music. And in that way, I think he has encouraged two generations of bass players taking, let's say, a small step forward or
Absolutely.
realizing the importance of every note.
Yeah, and there are sounds that are so specific that have been in every ears. Like I'm thinking of Gary Peacock and Charlie
Yes.
Hayden and Dave
Mhm.
Holland, and yours too is a very specific sound on ECM. And how was this time in studio? Was Manfred sitting in the audience like he does sometimes in Lugano? Was he in the control room?
If I were, yeah, you're right. Sometimes he sits in the audience. Maybe he did for a while. He was also up there in the studio. I was so concentrated on doing the music that my thoughts were not where is Manfred right now? But you are right. He walks between being in the audience and sitting up there. And he was really encouraging with us. So we really had a good time together. In a way, when you work together with Manfred, the duo becomes a trio, meaning his visions of music is somehow felt or understood or taken into consideration, and especially his joy and happiness when you come up to the studio after having done a take or two and you can see, Manfred really liked this, and that encourages you to go on, to do new things, and the direction of what is happening in the recording today
Hmm.
becomes very clear. It's very much here and now.
Yeah.
In general, when you record with Manfred and the duo format and this special recording that we had was very much about here and now, there in the very moment. The whole musical communication is very present to me, also when I listened afterwards.
You've been working with ECM for over 30 years. Was your first encounter with Manfred through Charles Lloyd?
I cannot really remember which is the very first recording I did.
I saw that it's Big Sur from 92, but maybe
Okay. And Don Cherry? That's
yeah,
not.
it was 93, Don Cherry.
Okay. Oh, so then you know. But
Mhm.
didn't I do anything before 92? Oh, I'm really not sure. So that's a tricky question. But Charles Lloyd, we did several albums, as you know. And yeah, it's been a regular thing for me since it started to record and meet Manfred once every year or every second year, or
Yeah.
whatever, and sometimes two, three times a year, depending on, well, depending on what there was to be recorded. So it's a long relation. For my beginning, I was pretty shy and nervous, and like you, I can feel big respect for the ECM label. My heroes were there before me. So it has taken me some years to both accept that I'm there and to be able to give my full potential in that very sensitive and demanding situation it is to travel from your country to another part of Europe to record for only 2 days with Manfred Eicher and the ECM label. You could become very nervous if you think of it. What a big opportunity, what a gift, what an honor it is. And that it took me some years to relax, to be focused without being tense and limited.
Do you listen back to those albums from the early 90s?
Mm, the short answer would be no. I remember quite much of it because it's big moments, but no, I don't listen back very much in general.
In general, you don't?
No, I look forward.
That's beautiful. So, what are
Mm.
you listening to right now?
I would say in general, I work so much and so intensively with music in general. You know, I compose, I have commissions, I play with several constellations, I practice, I try to come up with new things.
Yeah,
And one of the ways is not to listen too much
I see.
what that happens around me. I need also to create a relation with silence, with
Mhm.
space, with the unknown, so to speak. You would be surprised how little I listen. When I listen, it is music that awakens my curiosity, music that I don't know so much about. But that's very personal. That's my way of, let's say, hearing your inner voice. if I want to compose, what do I want to compose? Then I don't want my head to be full of everything fantastic you did and everything fantastic
Your neighbor did and
I
everything. Yeah,
did,
yeah.
or
No,
yeah, whatever. What does my inner voice tend to say? So to have a relation also to silence is important to me. I know other people, they listen, and for them it's fruitful to hear very much of what colleagues and other people do. I think this goes up and down in my life as an artist, but at the moment I don't listen very much.
we were talking about the world and the way the world is right now, and there's so much noise constantly, always, always,
Right?
always. And it's just that's something pretty incredible with ECM too, is that the relationship with the silence is sacred. And
Mm.
there's something so sacred in silence that we need to remember that sometimes in order to just make room for the rest, for
Yeah,
thoughts, but also for the music in general. But yeah, I
yeah,
understand.
you're right. Yeah.
You're also an educator. You're working at the conservatory in your town, right?
The Academy of Music and Drama in Gothenburg. But actually, I left. I've been
Okay.
professor leading the jazz or improvised music department for many years. But I left in let's call it an early retirement from the university, basically 2 years ago. I'm still
Mm,
connected though. Tomorrow I will go there to lecture and teach a little. They ask me, but I'm not leading it. I don't have my professor position left. I'm called Professor Emeritus, which
yeah.
means ex-professor. And they still ask me for advice, blah blah blah. But I'm basically not part of the academy anymore. I came to a point where after for many years I've been a full-time, serious freelancing musician, and the last 10 years full-time professor. Pretty hard work. I saw some people around me hitting the wall, as we say in Swedish, when you work too much and you fall apart. I didn't want to risk that, so I took a decision. I'll stop before I become overworked.
What I hear is that you're listening to yourself. And it comes back to what we were saying about the art of listening, because again, it's not only listening to the partner in the studio, it's not only listening to the silence, it's also listening to your inner voice that you were mentioning. And in younger generations of musicians, sometimes it feels like in order to fill the void and fill the silence and just not stopping the noise ever, people don't really listen to their inner voice. And maybe that's the only place where inspiration can come from and generosity also can come from, is when you made room first for yourself, right?
Yeah, you put it nicely. I think whatever inspiration that comes to us, it has to go through our inner life and then come out in a new shape. And for that process, for us to somehow handle and understand all impressions we get, we need silence because that's the moment when all the things you experience in life is
Digested, yeah.
digested, reflected, maybe unconsciously inside of you. So yeah, this is important, and then creating that the space, creating that those moments of silence is part of being an artist today, or I should say, it's part of being an artist for me because we are all individuals. I always say to myself, I mean, I have this little musical method, you could say, what does music need from me?
Mm,
And sometimes the answer is nothing, sir. Please shut up.
yeah. But not everyone has this humility to say, okay, got it. I'll come back tomorrow. You know,
Yeah.
not people can.
Space is present in the trio. We mentioned that Manfred is very active and present during a recording, and so is space. So when
Yeah.
we play duo, we are definitely three people: pianist, bass player, and the space, the room, the silence. And together we must create something.
Well, it's a beautiful duo. It's a beautiful album, and it's two beautiful souls also that are very here. You know, you can tell that those are great people who are also playing the great music. And yeah, thank you for this. What can I wish you for 2026? More space, more silence, more music,
Oh, I don't know.
more peace.
More peace, yes, in the world.
Yeah.
Can we achieve that?
I really hope so. And I want to keep believing in it. Yes. It's a
Yeah,
very scary time. It's a very, very scary time, but we also need music more than ever.
yeah, maybe.
So thanks for doing what you do.
Thanks for wanting to talk to me.
Anders Jormin about his new ECM record with Marilyn Crispell, Memento, produced by Manfred Eicher. Thank you for joining, choosing, and listening to the ECM podcast. I'm Caroline Fontanier, and I look forward to sharing more music with you in the next episode.